Hey everyone, it is Tuesday, and that means it is time for another amazing, incredible, phenomenal Tuesday video. So happy Tuesday to all of you. And today I have a special treat, and I gave Dean a heads up that this was coming. So expect surprises in the production, because I told Dean, like, hey, this is coming. Normally Dean gets just like a couple of hours notice. So like the special effects, he doesn't get much time for. But this week's video is going to be a replay of something that I did to great success in the last bull market, which now seems like it was so long ago, right? I mean, remember when I had my acronym trade stuff, Spotify, Tesla, Uber, Facebook, which is now called Meta. Yeah, remember that? Yeah, that was a good trade. I mean, all of those went up, and Tesla went up a lot. And in fact, I put on my X account, I had to remember, not Twitter, X, like, hey, I'm planning to do a new acronym trade and guess at what they might be and choose between two. PUMP or PUMPED, pumped. Pumped. Well, the voting went for pump, but listen, folks, the market's been going down for, I don't know, 2-3 years now. We're getting somewhere near like the low, where these prices are low. So even though everyone voted for pump, I want to give you more. I want to give you 6 stocks. So I'm going for pumped.
Yeah, baby. That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about.
Hope you like that. All right, before I get into the stocks in pumped, got to do this because, hey, this video and all of the content from my company, ATG Digital Media, that includes our updates, our model portfolios, all my posts on X, my Bald Man Speculating podcast. Have you checked that out? Yeah, you should. It's on Spotify. Also, let me complete this. Is not investment advice, not financial advice, represents opinion, information, engagement, and entertainment. Finally, second, past performance does not equal future results. Errors, mistakes, oversights, they happen. Capital loss is a possible and likely outcome if you choose to act on anything that is in our content. I, the owners, contractors, employees, associates of ATG Digital Media, own, trade, transact in the investments that are mentioned in this video and in all of our content. Speaking of ATG Digital Media, and I promise to make this quick, you can go check us out at atgdigital.media. What will you find when you get there? Well, you'll find offers for paid subscriptions that begin at $9.99. So 1 cent below $10 per month. And what do you get for that? Well, you get a complete and utter laser focus on innovation and growth. In other words, new world stocks. We don't recommend oil stocks. We don't recommend old school banking stocks. We focus on innovation and growth. And why? Well, because that's where the world is going. And when we look back, and in our opinion, when you look back 5, 7, 10 years from now, that's where you wish you will have put your money. That's our opinion. All right. So we focus on innovation, growth, stocks, and crypto. You get stock and crypto picks, updates, market strategy, and commentary. And if you want to check out what we sound like, what we feel like, what we talk about, you can read my Substack completely free at paulmampilly.substack.com. All right. So now the pumped. All right, pumped. I'm really pumped for this video and for this acronym trade. All right, but let's get down right to it. All right. Well, we're going to start with the biggest trend that is going to lead this next bull market. I mean, there's just no question about it because it is large. Its impact is going to be huge. It can be applied to everything, like electricity. We can't think about this today, but there was a time when there was just a few things in the home that had electricity, and slowly over time we electrified everything. Obviously, lights. Remember, prior to that, people had to light candles or whale oil or something like that. And then we applied it to washing machines and dryers and to dishwashers and mixers and cooking ranges. So electricity kind of went into everything. And that's what AI is going to do. It is going to be there. Right now, we're in the early stages of this. And we are just beginning to feel out where can we apply it first? Where will we get the biggest benefit if we apply it first? Because quite naturally, that's the way that companies think. That's the way that entrepreneurs think. So you got to be invested in AI, in my opinion, in my judgment, which is why the very first stock in pumped is Palantir Technologies, PLTR. Let me get my notes here. What does Palantir do? Well, they do AI, and they began about 15 years ago. No, I don't have the exact date. Peter Thiel was one of the founders. Peter Thiel, very famously, also funded Facebook very early, which made him a billionaire. He helped found Palantir, and Palantir, unlike ChatGPT, which hopefully most of you have heard about, doesn't do that kind of AI that is available to the public. Its AI is something that is used by governments, by companies, for very sort of high-end decision-making. You can imagine with the geopolitical situation being what it is, that Palantir is very, very busy. I believe in previous presentations that I have seen that they say that, they come across a lot of information that they have helped stop a lot of major events, that would be bad around the world. Palantir, in my judgment, is going to be the leader of a certain kind of AI, its kind of AI, which is decision-making for very large organizations like governments and business. And with the lead that they have, which is about having these networks, in other words, having these contracts with the US government, with very large corporations, with various large governments around the world, and the various organizations that sit underneath it, it's very hard to displace them because now they've got access to the data. They have layers and layers of analysis on which to build decision-making on. A new competitor would struggle to get in because governments would not want to give all of that data and information to 32 different sets of organizations. So the first one in the door has an absolutely massive advantage over anybody else that's there. So Palantir, by function of being very early, has in front of it an extraordinary opportunity in artificial intelligence. And that's why it is stock number one in pumped. All right, stock number one. Palantir is a $18 stock. Now remember, a stock's price does not tell you if it is expensive or cheap, does not tell you if it is big or small. Expensive or cheap has to be relative to something. Some people use earnings, some people use sales, some people use enterprise value. At its current price, the way I look at the world, I look for cheap against the future that I believe that the company has. And that means that if I am right, and there's no guarantees, and Palantir is one of the leaders of artificial intelligence for the next 5, 10, 15 years, then it is cheap. Obviously, at this point in time, there is uncertainty. No one can be absolutely 100% sure that Palantir is going to be the leader or that AI is going to work out in the way that I described. Nonetheless, given my understanding of things, my reading of Palantir and the AI field, I believe that at $18 and a market capitalization of $38 billion, $38 billion, just to give you context, is a sort of like a mid-sized small company in our world today, because we have mega cap companies like Microsoft and Apple, which are worth like a little under $3 trillion, $3 trillion, right? So relative to that, Palantir is fairly small. Now, it's not like, tiny like a micro cap, which would have a market capitalization of something like maybe 20 million or 30 million or even 100 million. So it's a company that has enough size where another large company would feel comfortable dealing with it, and governments would feel comfortable dealing with it. But I bring all this up because $18 does not tell you anything. That's just the stock price. The market capitalization gives you some sense of like where it sits in terms of very large. And why does that matter? Well, young technologies like artificial intelligence have a lot of growth ahead of them. So if you are capturing a genuine opportunity early, and it's still early for Palantir Technology at 38 billion, they could get to 380 billion. Who knows, in 20 years, I know, nobody's going to be in this for 20 years, and we won't be reporting on it potentially in 20 years. It could be a 3.8 trillion. In other words, if you start fairly small, you have the chance to make a lot of money. So the market capitalization is the thing to look at in terms of big versus small. In terms of, is it cheap or expensive? Well, that's a much more subjective thing. And, depending on who you talk to, what their philosophy is, how they look at the world, it can be, again, earnings, it can be sales, it can be some prospective number that's 5-7 years out. Or it could be, based on technical analysis. And if that's the case, then you will, cheap is 10 and expensive is 30 or whatever. Either way, the way we look at things, this is one of the signature AI companies of one of the signature themes of this bull market that is coming, if not already here. All right. Stock number 2 is Uber. Uber in Pumped. Pumped. Uber. Why Uber? Well, hey, while right now everyone thinks of it as a sort of like a taxi substitute company, Uber was really kind of like built on the idea that they have a platform, and that platform can take on certain inputs. Right now, it's human drivers with cars, either delivering people to their houses or offices or delivering things through Uber Eats. And then they have like a smaller sort of like a freight and logistics business. But the big upside in Uber is really, their existing platform is making them pretty nice money right now. But everything that I am looking at says that, while autonomy seems like science fiction to the vast majority of people, we have actual driverless robotaxis wandering around San Francisco right now. We also have them in Austin, and they are going to be coming to an additional, I believe it's another 12 cities in the next 1 to 3 years. And the way I'm looking at it is that Uber will definitely be in that business. And when that happens, its primary cost will go away. And it will start to become a leader in this business of autonomy and transportation and of essentially managing robotaxis, a kind of robot. So these two things, autonomy and robotics, are going to be a very significant trend in the coming bull market. Why? Well, because we have a labor shortage. We simply do not have enough people to drive cars, to take people around without the cost being continually moving higher and higher and higher. So we need this autonomy to work out. That will sink the cost of transportation, whether it be of taking people to different places or moving things around. And Uber gets you into that opportunity. So Uber is a $45 stock representing a $93 billion company, so bigger than Palantir, but way smaller than Apple or Microsoft. All right, so that's stock number 2. All right, third stock is MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor. Like who? Michael who? Michael Saylor is the dude that founded MicroStrategy. I don't think he's the CEO anymore, but he came up with this idea that Bitcoin is going to be the universal digital currency. And he has accumulated a treasure trove, like a Fort Knox. I mean, that's the only comparison that I can think of. It is a Fort Knox amount of Bitcoin, 158,245 Bitcoin, representing at approximately current prices about $4.7 billion, with an average cost of about $30,000 per Bitcoin. And if I am right, and I just recently wrote a Substack, remember the Substack that you can check out to see what ATG digital media is like, yesterday talking about how, in my judgment, in my opinion, it is inevitable that Bitcoin is going to go to $100,000 by mid-year next year. Reasons for that is, the amount of debt that, we have, which today we care about, the inflation that we have around the world. Given all of these things, and then the halving, which is going to happen in April of 2024, in my opinion, it's inevitable that it gets to 100,000. And from there, given the pattern of how Bitcoin jumps up between halvings, so the longer it takes to kind of add a zero, the faster the next zero comes. So if you go and look at the dates, and I posted something on X on this, which is, $1, $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000. Obviously, we're waiting for $100,000, and it's been over, I think, 2,300 and some days since we've seen another zero added to Bitcoin. And that's very, very long relative to all the previous jumps. So in my way of thinking, Bitcoin, if it is the digital currency sort of our time, then the thing that matters to it the most is kind of the amount of dollars that are in the system. And we've got a lot of dollars that are in the system today, which are pushing out for various reasons. We're no longer scared about the global financial crisis and the Great Depression. So we're spending money at a rate, that we haven't for 14 years. Countries from China to Saudi Arabia to other places are also beginning to spend their reserves and buy less. So there's more and more currency out there. And that means that there is a lot of money that is looking for something that is not the dollar. And that's way more money than that was true when Bitcoin originally started in 2009, or the last time it jumped to, $10,000. So if that is right, the next jump is 100,000, and not long after, we're going to get to 1 million. And if that's right, then MicroStrategy, which is a fairly small company, smaller than Palantir, smaller than Uber, it's a $4.8 billion company, but it's a $340 stock. Now, many people be like, Paul, I can't afford that. That's too much. It's too expensive. I'm going to say something that I said to folks that people actually wrote me and thanked me for it, which is that, when I recommended Tesla at Banyan Hill, Tesla was, I think, a $200 or $300 stock. And people wrote in the same complaints, I can't afford it, etc. And I said, it's okay to just buy one share. It's okay to buy 2 shares. And many of those folks did do that. And those post splits are now, a lot more shares. And it didn't matter because, that one share turned out to be more than enough to give them a very, very large gain. So I'm going to say it's totally okay to just buy 1 or 2 shares if you find that the share price is something that's oh my God, it's too big. So 1 share of, of MicroStrategy, or 2 shares, whatever, is totally okay, totally okay. So that's the M in pumped. So we're up to PUM. Okay, we're now on to the second P, which is PayPal. PayPal is a $58 stock representing a $64 billion company. So again, about all these companies are sort of on the mid end of of small. They're nowhere near the Apple and Microsoft size, but they're big enough that where they've got enough resources, they got access to financing, they've got enough cash flow, they can build brands, they've got enough firepower to really compete against much larger companies, because PayPal, what are they really competing against? Well, banks. What does PayPal get you into? Well, PayPal gets you into this opportunity of fintech, which is what at its core? Well, it is the replacement of the old school bank branch system with a digital financial system. And PayPal got its start by releasing apps like Venmo and obviously PayPal. And then they've got a whole series of apps that sort of feed into an ecosystem of people that use it. And once you sort of start using one, they'll offer you another service, and you get into this ecosystem, and it has a network effect. And if you look at some of the greatest stock market winners, they have this network effect. eBay, Amazon, and others, they all have this network effect, which is that once you get into an ecosystem, you're sort of like, you're there, and then everybody else is there because you are there. So this network effect is very, very powerful. And fintech, in my opinion, is also like inevitable. I believe that banks, between higher interest rates, the expense of running their old systems, which are ancient, running ancient languages like COBOL, etc., having to support bank branches. PayPal has none of that. They don't have any bank branches. I mean, all of their computing digital infrastructure is new. They can do real-time payments. Everything that is difficult for banks to do, PayPal can do quite easily. So PayPal gets you into fintech. So now we're up to PUMP, P-U-M-P. And with that, we've covered sort of like a map of where I believe the new bull market is going to be. I forgot to mention that with MicroStrategy, you're obviously getting into Bitcoin and crypto. All right, quickly into the last two, which is the E, which is exact sciences. Exact sciences gets you into genetics and precision medicine. The big bet here really is on multi-cancer, early stage sort of screening. They bought a company called Thrive, and this is based on a test that you can take and will tell you with a level of precision that we simply could not have had prior to all of the developments in genetics as to what the likelihood is of you getting cancer. And we have vast research that if you can identify cancer early, really, the chances of beating it, of living much longer, are sort of like 3 to 5 times greater than what they are today. So Exact Sciences, their current business is in a number of genetic tests. They have a test called Cologuard, which is for colorectal cancer. Some of you may have seen it if you've gone to get one of these tests. It's a $65 stock representing a $12 billion company, and it gets us into one of, I believe, is going to be one of the bigger parts of this bull market, which is that it's going to be in genetics, in biotech, in molecular diagnostics, precision medicine, and Exact Sciences sits perfectly in the middle of all of that. All right, so that's the E in pumped. Finally, the last one is the smallest company, and it's one that many of you own. It's a long-suffering stock that I've been on for 5-7 years. That's 3D Systems. This is a $4 stock representing a $542 million company. This is a genuinely small company. Really, saying $542 million is not so far away from like microcap, which I consider 300 million-ish and under. So why bother with 3D Systems? It's gone nowhere for, it seems like about 10, 12 years. Well, if I am right, we are in the process of changing the way we make things. And that means instead of sort of batch producing hundreds of thousands of millions of units, we're going to produce much smaller amounts. We're also going to produce them locally. Part of this process is being referred to as reshoring, as we take back production from far-flung places in Asia and bring them back closer. It's called reshoring. It's also called nearshoring. And as that happens, they're not going to put up those old school plants. They're putting up buildings or with 3D printers and where they are producing things differently than they did before. And there's many benefits to it. Obviously, smaller size, there's far less transportation costs, much less inventory. And despite all of its struggles as a stock, the company has continued to do the right things. They've sold off all of sort of like secondary operations, and their focus now is solely on 3D printing and 3D printers. And if I'm right, we're going to see this reshoring really facilitate a boom in the putting up of new plants that really depend on 3D printers and 3D systems, and its stock would benefit from that. All right, so that is the total amount of pumped. First P is for Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR. U is Uber, ticker symbol UBER. Third is MicroStrategy, ticker symbol MSTR. Fourth is PayPal, ticker symbol PYPL. The fifth is Exact Sciences, EXAS. And then the sixth is 3D Systems, which has the ticker symbol DDD. So before I end this video, I want to say, well, many of you are going to want to cherry pick between these six and say, well, you know, I kind of like this theme, or I like this stock, or, you know, oh, I like that $4 price tag. I'll just look, folks. The thing is that you don't know. You don't know which one is going to work out first, which one is going to be the biggest, and you don't know which one that I might, you know, just be wrong on. So if you just pick one, the likelihood that, you know, you're going to get it right is less than, you know, if you equal weighted. You know, when I was at Banyan Hill, I used to tell you, like, equal weight and let it be. How would I do this? Well, you know, remember, not financial advice, not investment advice. I would take whatever number it is, you know, whatever. Maybe you can afford $100. Maybe it's $1,000. Take 1,000 and just buy $1,000 worth of each. MicroStrategy, obviously, you know, you could only be able to buy 2.5 shares. It's fine. If it works out, that's going to be a large amount of money. And, you know, that's how I would do it. Because, like I said, we all want our gains fast. We all want our gains big. And nobody likes to lose. The only way to avoid all of that is to really take a basket, take a portfolio approach. That way, if I'm wrong about one or two, or if one or two take as long as 3D Systems has taken, you know, from the past, you still got 4 or 5 others that can work from you. All right. So bottom line is that we've got a new acronym trade. It is, go with me, pumped. Yeah, we're pumped. I'm pumped about pumped. And it gets you into what I believe is the signature themes of this coming bull market. Artificial intelligence, autonomy and robotics. Artificial intelligence through Palantir, autonomy and robotics through Uber, Bitcoin crypto through MicroStrategy, Fintech and kind of crypto as well through PayPal, precision medicine and genetics through Exact Sciences, and reshoring and new manufacturing through 3D Systems. I'm pumped. All right, that's the video for this week. I'm back next week. This is Paul saying bye.